the case where it's like, again, I think that's a specific context, especially considering this verse, which we all know very well. It's one of the most terrifying verses in all the Bible, right? Right? It's
Yeah.
not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Right? So there's a specific context. And not only that, but hearing in that sense, I think hearing has a specific application from a cross reference when it's saying those
Right.
hear, because anyone can hear the gospel, right? Like physically. That's not the same as receiving. That's why Paul, he always uses the term receiving the gospel, right? When he's talking about those who actually come to salvation. But again, I don't see the pressing argument here. I really don't. If anything, I
Right.
see a lack of a means to establish a substantive argument that Christ has in meritoriously, like like in the sense that he's actually um atoned in that sense, that he is atoned in the sense of providing and applying merit or making it possible for all people. I don't see that argument made. I really don't.
Yo, predestinated. You believe in limited atonement, right?
Unlimited atonement? No, I don't believe in
No.
unlimited.
Limited atonement.
Sure. I believe in limited atonement in that sense. I mean,
Is
I'd
that the
rather
idea
say.
of like? Is that the idea that Christ didn't die for everyone?
Oh no, I believe that Christ died for everyone in the Christus Victor sense. He didn't die for everyone in the penal substitutionary atonement sense. I think there's a contradiction. If you believe in penal substitutionary atonement, I believe an unlimited atonement is contradictory with penal substitutionary atonement.
How do you address 1 John 2:2 then? Like he's a propitiation for the sins of the world. Isn't propitiation like
That's
PSA?
not 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I think in that sense it's not easy in that sense. I think in the whole world, I think is used as this was. You could say a lot of different responses there. I would mainly say it's that in the whole world, it's still addressed to the people he's talking to, and so that there's Christians throughout the whole quote unquote whole world at that point.
But the problem is that how the book defines the world though? Because it says like the whole world lies in wickedness or the world doesn't know God. Like it describes the world in that book as the unreconciled group. So how do you address that? Doesn't that debunk your limited atonement view?
No, I don't. I really don't think it does. I mean, I've
Well,
looked at
do
that.
you have an explanation?
What?
What
Do
are
you have
we
an
talking
explanation
about here?
for that?
Because every single Christian believes in limited atonement in some sense.
Yep, that's true.
We're talking about
Atonement.
like if Christ died for the unbeliever's sins. I will probably be on the positive, and he'd probably say
I would
because
say
he's a
my only
Calvinist.
reason. Well, dirty.
No,
Cal.
look, Christ died for every single person's sins.
Yo, Honor. Well, we were having a discussion, so like, can you back off for a second because I'm trying to talk to him, right? So,
Well,
predestined. How do you address
this
how
is
do
a
you address
public
1 John
chat.
2?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, well, it is a public chat, but it's kind of disrespectful to like interrupt people in the
I
middle
didn't
of discussion.
interrupt.
Well, you did, but anyways, yo, predestined. Can you address 1 John 2:2? What do you think?
Hey, since this is a public chat, Connor, you can feel free to let me speak if you'd like.
Yeah,
But
I
you
mean,
can speak if you
you
want.
can go ahead. I'm looking at this right now. Go ahead.
I mean,
Okay.
sure, Honor can speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not a Calvinist. I don't agree with Connor, but I do want to qualify limited atonement because it is limited in a sense unless you're a universalist. So if you're not a universalist, it is limited in a sense. But Christ still died for not just the sins of the whole world. I believe he died for the entirety of reality. So I'd hold to basically how the sin of Adam kind of just threw a wrench in the whole cosmos. I also believe that Christ fixed the whole cosmos. So
Well, so did he
basically
die? Did he die?
sorry?
Did he die for demons?
No.
Okay, well, so I would say he died for the whole mankind. Like he died for everyone's sins, as in like all humans. But I think what Christ accomplished in the cross has different applications to like different individuals. For like demons, they're probably like
Did he die for
being
the sin of
subject.
unbelief?
Yeah, he did die for the sins of unbelievers. That's what we were talking about, right?
Then what are
Yeah.
people being condemned for?
Because they don't have the blood applied to them. Because when you believe, that's when his blood is appropriated to you.
So wait, what? So you're saying that it's really interesting. So you're saying like human faith activates salvation?
Well, you receive the remission of sins by faith. That's what Romans 3 says, right? But that doesn't change the fact that he still died for the sins of unbelievers. And that's why I asked you about 1 John 2:2, which you still didn't have an answer for it. So do you have an answer for it now?
Yeah,
I take it that you don't have an answer, right? How about 2 Peter 2:1 when it says he died for the false prophets
I know the
deny the Lord
masters
that
there.
bought
I
them.
know what you're talking about there. I don't
Yeah.
think it's talking in the propitiation sense. I don't think it's talking about that actually when it's saying bought, right? I think in the Old Testament specifically, there's this like a sense of bought. They're like bought out of slavery, right?
Yeah, but there's a problem with that, right? So the Greek word there is like purchased and bought. And every time that's used in the New Testament, it's generally used in the sense of like being bought with his blood. That's how the Greek word is used in the New Testament. So if you say that bought is not about being bought to like by his blood, you have a bit of a problem that you need to solve. You know?
Question. Can I ask a question? I'm gonna chime in real quick. If God chooses who is saved, what is the point of faith?
Well, because I'd say free will. He wants everyone to be saved, but he's not going to force it on you. So it's up to you for you to believe and be saved.
That's not answering the question.
I feel like it's more complicated than that, though. I feel
Well,
like
I feel
that's
like you're
not
the
really.
one. Well, I feel like you're the one that didn't answer 2 of my questions, but that's fine. It's okay.
I'm sorry that you're offended in that sense.
I mean, I'm not offended. I'm really calm,
I
as
know,
you can
but
tell
dude,
from my
you're being
voice.
like a
Yeah.
debate bro right now. You're very quick.
Well, it is a debate because it is a discussion. We're trying to debate
I
if
mean,
limited
I'm
atonement is
just
biblical.
I'm just gonna answer his question because he was talking to that person who would believe, like at least kind of believe that like that idea of God choosing